All right, let's dive into three absolutely incredible stories, all packed into just one chapter of the Gospel of Luke. We're going to lean on the analysis of Dr. Daniel Darko here because he really helps us unpack how these encounters show us something huge about what the kingdom of God is all about.
So here's the big question, right? We hear Jesus talk all the time about proclaiming the kingdom of God. But what does that actually look like on the ground? In the real world? For Luke, who wrote this gospel, it wasn't just about giving speeches. No, for him, saying it and doing it, the miracles, they were basically two sides of the same coin.
And this is exactly how Luke shows us. Instead of just telling us, he lays out three really dramatic case studies that put this power, this kingdom, right into action. We get to see exactly what it looks like when it comes face to face with the real world. So, let's break them down.
Okay, case study number 1. It all starts on a lake, where Jesus and his disciples get caught in a storm that's so bad it threatens to kill them. This is all about authority over the natural world itself.
And the contrast here is just wow. Think about it. On one side of the boat, you've got the pros, right? These are experienced fishermen who have spent their whole lives on this lake, and they are completely losing it. They're panicking, thinking this is it, we're going down. And on the other side, what's Jesus doing? He's fast asleep, just totally at peace while this chaos is swirling all around them.
I mean, you can practically hear the panic in their voices. This isn't just a little worry. This is pure, raw terror. They are absolutely convinced they're about to die, and they rush to shake him awake with this desperate cry.
And Jesus' response? It's just unbelievable. He doesn't start yelling for a bucket or grabbing a rope. He just stands up and rebukes the storm. He literally speaks to the wind and the waves like they're misbehaving children who have to obey him. And they do. The chaos just stops, instantly.
And this is the kicker. After he saves their lives, he asks them this incredible question. He immediately turns the spotlight inward. It's like he's saying, hey, the real storm wasn't out there on the water. The real storm was right here, in this boat. It was your lack of faith. He completely reframes the whole crisis from a physical one to a spiritual one. Just brilliant.
Now for our second case study. You can see how the theme is building. They get across the lake, and they're in Gentile territory now. And the first thing they encounter is a man possessed by demonic forces. This story is all about authority over that unseen spiritual realm. I mean, the way Luke describes this guy, it's horrifying. He's totally cut off from everyone, naked, living among the dead in the tombs. He's so out of control that people have tried to chain him up, but he just breaks the chains. He is the very picture of suffering and isolation.
So Jesus asks for a name, and the answer he gets is just chilling, legion. Now you have to put yourself in their shoes. For someone living under Roman rule, that word is loaded with terror. A Roman legion meant 6,000 soldiers. It meant an occupying army. So this isn't just a name for some evil spirit, it's a statement. It's saying this man's soul has been completely conquered, occupied by this massive, overwhelming force of darkness.
And this just shows you the power dynamics so clearly. Back in the boat, the disciples were freaking out, confused about who Jesus was. But these dark spiritual forces, they have zero doubt. They know exactly who he is, the Son of the Most High God, and they are terrified of him. The change is just total. The man who was this wild, tormented outcast is now calm. He's dressed, and he's sane. And check out his posture. He's sitting at Jesus' feet. That's a classic pose for a student, a disciple. His dignity, his identity, his mind, it's all been given back to him in a moment.
Okay, our final case study is a masterpiece. Luke brilliantly weaves two stories together, and here we see Jesus' authority go even further. Not just over nature and spirits, but over the deepest human fears. Sickness and death itself.
Luke is so clever with this. He connects these two stories with a single number, 12. You've got a little girl who is 12 years old and is dying. And then you have a woman who has been suffering from a bleeding condition for, you guessed it, 12 years. The entire life of that child has been one long period of pain for this woman.
And look at how different they are. Jairus is a big deal in the community, a synagogue leader, and he's begging Jesus for help in public. The woman, on the other hand, is a nobody, an outcast, who's considered ritually unclean. She has to sneak up on Jesus in the middle of a crowd. They come from opposite ends of the social ladder, but they're both at the end of their rope, and they both see Jesus as their only hope.
This is such an act of what Dr. Darko calls daring faith. I mean, she's breaking all sorts of religious and social rules here, but she believes with everything she has that if she can just touch the edge of his clothes, that'll be enough. And it is. After 12 long years of suffering, she's healed. Just like that.
So right at that moment, someone comes running up to Jairus with the worst possible news. Your daughter's dead. It's too late. Can you imagine that devastation? But Jesus turns to him in that exact moment of despair and says this. He tells him to trade his fear for faith.
And this is the climax of the whole chapter. Jesus walks into a room full of people who are already mourning, tells them to get out, and he takes this dead child by the hand, which, by the way, would make him ceremonially unclean. And he just speaks to her. He says, "Child, rise." And her life comes back.
So, what's the big takeaway from these three stories? They're not just random magic tricks. They're very specific, very powerful demonstrations of what the kingdom of God actually is when it shows up.
What Luke shows us is that Jesus has this stunning, all-encompassing authority. First, over the wild, impersonal chaos of nature. Second, over those unseen evil forces in the spiritual world. And finally, over the things that hit closest to home for all of us, our own bodies, our sickness, and even death itself.
And that brings us full circle, doesn't it? In just this one chapter, Luke lays out this incredible vision of power. A power that can walk into a storm and just stop it. A power that can face down an army of darkness and send it running. A power that can look death in the face and say, "Nope, not today." You see, these aren't just cool stories from a long time ago. They're a challenge. They're looking right at us. And the question they leave hanging in the air is, what do you do with a power like that?